No, look, it's going live.
You're live.
There's a difference. No.
Hey, folks. So welcome to episode 7 of the GSP podcast, team podcast, should I say. I have a few topics I want to talk about today. First one we'll crack straight into is comp day nutrition. So, lads, what are your experiences of comp day nutrition? You just competed. Yeah. So what was your plan throughout the day?
You were late in the day as well. So.
So kind of like at that point in my mind, it's just kind of like protein isn't really do too much, like, so it's kind of more about just like getting in enough carbs. Like I would still get like just like a couple of eggs in the morning, like even like say like at UK's with Giants Live on the weekend, I had maybe about like 4 eggs, and then the rest of it then was just kind of just like porridge and kind of say like bananas, fruits, stuff like that. And I think it is a little bit easier if your competition is earlier in the day, because then you can just kind of like have a really good breakfast and then like kind of go straight into competition. Like, but if it's a little bit like later in the day, you got to be, a little bit more selective of it, because especially if you get like kind of the competition day nerves, you don't want to be eating things that are like too difficult. So say there on the weekend when we were having the lunch, I just stuck with just plain pasta and then just like basic, just like mince and stuff. Like I didn't want to have anything too overcomplicated. But that was at like 12 o'clock, and then the competition didn't start until like 5. So after that, then I was just kind of just like between kind of the carbohydrate kind of drinks and gels throughout the competition. Like especially like during competing, I'd usually have like 3 carbohydrate gels, and I kind of spread them out throughout the competition, just kind of keep topped up, because what I used to do was just kind of more rely on like the pre-workout and caffeine to kind of carry you through. But like you need the carbohydrate for your muscles to actually like work properly and stuff. And it's kind of happened, like, especially coming to like the last stone of a stone run, to say at the end of the competition, like where I should be able to lift it, but I've just been so like again just heavily on stimulants and stuff. I use like the R4 products that Platinum have, which is really good, because you got like over 50 grams of carbohydrates, you got like 28 grams of protein, and then full of all the electrolytes and stuff. So I'd have at least one of them before about maybe like an hour before competition, and then have one during competition, and then just to kind of keep everything all topped up.
That's actually a really good product, when you think of it. And like, I'm not sponsored by them. Cilléin is ours. Just throwing that out there. But like, that sounds like a really good product for UKs, because
definitely.
You're getting your carbs in while you're competing, and your electrolytes, especially if it's summertime and it's hot. But you're also getting your protein topped up for what's a 3-day event. You can't ignore protein for the 3 days.
Of course.
You can for a 1-day comp.
And
just get your carbs in, because that's what's going to keep you going. And worry about the protein afterwards.
Definitely.
But for UKs, actually, you need to keep topped up. So that's a nice product.
Even for people who are like cutting, I think it's a very good product, because you can get everything in without like. Because I kind of feel like, from just what some people say, they do a cut and then they try and like refuel themselves by eating, but then it's just like it's such a shock in the system to get like just heavy, bulky foods and stuff. So just with the R4 products, I just find it's so easy to digest that like you don't like it doesn't like sit in your stomach. You don't feel nauseous of it or anything. Like it's like competition day, like probably one of the best kind of products that I've used. Like again, since you just mentioned UKs, it's kind of reminded me there that I think like over the 3 days of UKs, I think by the end of it I'd lost, I think it was about 8.5 kilos of body weight.
Jesus.
Over the 3 days. Like, and I was even talking to the other lads who were there, and they were saying the same thing, that like last year, like they were all losing like anywhere between 8 to 10 kilos, like, because you wake up, let's say if you wake up at 8, you have your breakfast, and then for UKs you have to be downstairs by like 12 to do like the TV links before the show, and then you've got maybe like an hour then before like 1 o'clock before the show actually starts. So it's just, and then like you're competing from say like 1 to 5, and then you'd have the meet and greets after, then for like a few of the athletes that can go on then to about maybe like 7 or 8. And by the time then you're just kind of just like, so like when you're really tired, that's actually just difficult to eat. So it's just, you're just kind of trying to eat what you can, like, but you're basically going into each day on a calorie deficit from the day before, kind of thing. Like.
And the events are very intense at UK.
Very intense,
Like he likes a lot of max distance carries and real like max effort drags and stuff like that.
Yeah, from the get go. It's not like you don't like ease into it.
No.
It's just 100% from the start. Like,
and it's a full comp 3 days in a row.
Yeah, more or less.
Pretty much. Like that.
And you're kind of you have to be in a particular place, at a particular hotel. You can't even like get Airbnb or anything.
No, you got to stay there.
Now,
we're lucky enough that there was like a Asda or something like that right beside the hotel at UK's last year. and they actually had really nice sushi packs. And I was just
Okay.
because like a lot of calories in sushi.
Yeah.
You get your carbohydrates, you get your protein and stuff
Relatively
like.
clean as well.
You're
So.
relatively easy to digest as well. Like so, I was basically just kind of getting those, and then like it's kind of like I brought over my own clean game protein shakes and stuff and everything like so. Like if you're traveling for multiple day competition, it's definitely advisable to bring maybe like some weight gainer shakes or something, just because it can be very difficult to kind of get those calories in over the few days.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize you lost so much weight.
You know, oh yeah, no, it's
it is intense.
It is.
Yeah.
I even took a picture of myself like at the start and at the end, and you could just see how depleted the body was. Like.
And like OSG then, Ayshea, is totally different because it's a 3-day competition, but it's only 2 events a day, except for last year because of the storm. But
Yeah.
so like dealing with that then.
I suppose with OSG, that little bit of difference is we'd always get Airbnb, and I think last year, 2021 was the way we did it worked really, really well. So I replicated that as much as I could for 22. Obviously, the hurricane decided to throw a bit of a kibosh on it, but still. So what we would normally do for that, the 3-day comp, is get an Airbnb and meal prep. So even I got into the whole routine of saying, okay, I would do pasta and bolognese. Now, I don't eat much throughout the day of competition. So this was another one. This was a new one for me to get used to because it was over 3 days. But after competition and the nights before competition, I would make sure that I would be filled up on, like, we would have steak, mashed potatoes, carrots. I'd have a good dinner that evening because I knew that I wasn't eating enough during the day. And as soon as I'd be finished my events, I would get some carbs into me. Throughout the day then of competition, which wasn't too dissimilar to even a 1-day competition here, I've got better. Like I can eat some breakfast. I normally try and eat some porridge or have some toast. But I say it's up until about 3 years ago, that was a non-issue. I would literally get sick. My digestive system would not allow me to digest anything. I really wouldn't eat anything at all from the time I'd get up until the time I'd finish competition. I would sip on water, and that would be it. There would be no drink, no hydro drinks, anything. That has improved greatly over the past 3 years. I suppose so. Like I said, OSG, it was just about make sure the night before the competitions I was getting really, really filled post comp. During the competition, then so before I'd have, like I said, porridge or some toast, and then I would have something like very plain rice cakes, a little bit of banana each, like literally eat a banana over the course of a couple of hours. I'm not a big fan of. You'll see a lot of people, especially in powerlifting as well, but more and in strongman, with the jellies and the sweets.
Yeah.
I'm not an advocate of that.
Either.
I did it before. You're doing powerlifting, but you crash really badly.
Yeah.
It's like this spike and crash, and it's no good. Like you're trying to control your adrenaline. Now you're trying to control your sugar rush as well. So not an advocate of it for myself. Also, it can make you feel quite sick because you've got all this sugar in your system. From a drinks perspective as well, now I suppose from hydration will be a lot better as well throughout the day, but I still wouldn't take a huge amount during the day. I do most of my hydration that night before comp. As soon as I finish comp, I'd start putting fluid into myself. But the likes of, say, the sugar-free Gatorades when we were over there, and the Pedialyte for rehydration.
Yeah.
Like for guys who don't know that it's like a Dior-like drink for kids. It's over in America, and it comes in all these different flavors, and it's
Fair tasty too.
I don't know, but like that, keep myself hydrated. Throughout the day, I would sip on, say, the Gatorade. I'm also actually not sponsored by them, but I'm a big fan of the Hydromax by Strong. It's one of the things I find that I can actually drink through a training session and it doesn't sit here. I'm not having digestive issues with it. I've got quite a sensitive digestive system, sensitive little flower that I am. So that would have been OSG, I suppose, nutrition wise. And like if with ISW now, again, depending on what the day is like, I would try and have a bit of very plain breakfast. And then again, very similar, a little bit of rice cakes, a little bit of banana, and then wait until I'd finished to eat everything around me and to replenish myself.
Yeah. And I suppose with the 1-day comps then, like the 1-day Ireland's, obviously it's very different to UK's OSG. If you're waking up early and competing at say 11 or 12 o'clock, what are you doing? Like what's different there?
For like a 1-day comp?
Yeah. So not like the Giants Live was in the evening. So if you had a morning time start, say 11 a.m. or 12 like Ireland's maybe.
I suppose I tried out like a few different things. I mean, one competition I tried just kind of have like steak and eggs in the morning time, just to kind of get a lot of just kind of like fats in there as well as energy. And then had some carbohydrates, and after, because I just find even like my regular diet, I start off with like a small meal first, something very light, just to kind of get things moving. And then as the day goes on, my kind of like volume kind of increases. Like, because I find if I eat too much too soon, then it's just going to fuck me up for the rest of the day. Like, so I'd usually just kind of try and stick with just kind of maintenance like carb. Maybe in the morning time I'd have like a banana, maybe some like Greek yogurt and like a scoop of protein or something like that, just to kind of get things going. And after that, then I just kind of just like stock up with some like oats or Weetabix or something like that. Then,
What about through the comp?
through the comp, then again, like just
Fairly quick.
yeah, I usually have at least 3 packs of the carbohydrate gels. So have one right before the first event, and then one halfway kind of through, and then one before the last event, like just to kind of keep things popped up as well.
Similar to giant slide.
Similar to giant slide,
different
yeah.
timeline. The only difference is, I suppose, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Throughout the day.
Yeah. Like if you were on a budget, one thing I find works really well is just getting like a regular bottle of Lucozade and just kind of putting that in and then mix it up with water.
Yeah.
Because you see, like even like a lot of people, regular gym goers, they literally might just buy a bottle of Lucozade and go to the gym and think it's enough to hydrate themselves. So fair enough, you've got a lot of sodium, magnesium, and you got your kind of carbohydrates in there, but there's not enough water in there to actually use to rehydrate yourself. So it's kind of like it could be a little bit kind of counterproductive in some ways. Like, so I'd have like sometimes just like have the Lucozade water and then have just like a regular like kind of tub of water.
You do that when you're training sometimes too.
Yes, training sometimes as well. It's just because you're topping yourself up without even realizing you're topping yourself up. Like, and it's, you know, especially if you're somebody who struggles to kind of keep things in their stomach, you know, whether it might be nerves or just like their stomach in general. I kind of find like a Powerade or Lucozade mixing with water is a very good thing, and it could be something that you could use to kind of like start you off into like building yourself up into other supplements kind of thing, like just letting your body get used to something simple first, and then like as time goes on you might be able to actually have something that may be a little bit more kind of substantial in the future.
But similar to that as well, one of the things I would use is the electrolyte tablets. You just throw one of those into like a litre and a half of a bottle of water, a little bit of flavour off it, so it's not just this boring kind of, especially if you're not a fan of water like myself, put a bit of taste into it, but you're getting rehydrated through that session. And like you said, not just relying on one bottle of Lucozade Sport or whatever sport drink to give you your carry through.
I think that's pretty much that covered quite extensively. Like my thoughts on it, like not that I'm doing any comps anytime soon, but similar to yourselves, I'd be focused on carbs all day.
Carbs and electrolytes.
Like for breakfast, I'd probably have a few eggs because it's just habit. Early, I'd have my eggs and some porridge, and then I'd just be carbs, electrolytes and carbs throughout the competition. Keeping it fairly clean. Nothing that's going to upset my stomach or that might be hard to digest.
Too greasy or anything, because I often see
greasy,
people taking a big fry before competition. I'm
how
could you do
but
that?
It's also doing nothing for you.
It's nothing. It's just
you know, it's actually going to slow you down.
And I feel like it is important to keep your same routine, especially on the day of competition, because like, you know, why the hell are you going to change your routine on the most important day of it? Like, so it's just like, you know, get in your regular kind of small breakfast and then try and just kind of get in as many not force feed yourself with carbs, but try and, you know, kind of work out to get a substantial amount of carbohydrates in before the comp.
And I think if someone is struggling to figure out what to do on comp days, maybe move on your lower body training sessions to a Saturday. Like we train Saturday morning, it's lower body and events. And figure out what works for you for that training session around it, to train around 11 or 12 ideally, as we do. We train at 11. And then that gives you a chance to figure out what's going to work for you for a competition.
I think
it's
that's
essentially the same workout as comp we do. We comp every Saturday.
That's exactly how I got into being able to eat something. Was I started practicing doing it through my training sessions, because I said if I was going to get sick or if I was going to have to go to the bathroom, at least I'm in a training session. I'm not in the middle of a comp. So those are the times to try those things out and go, right, okay, can I eat a bit of a banana? Can I eat some dates? Can I eat a rice cake without it sticking here and putting me off my lips? So yeah, definitely, if you're going to try something, try it through that training.
Yeah, definitely don't try anything new on competition day.
No. Worst time to do it.
Stick
pre-workouts, all of this stuff. Don't try anything.
Training is the time to try it out. And you fuck it up in training, so be it. You don't want to do it on comp day.
One thing to just say about nutrition as well is like, if most of you listening, I even just from going into the shop and like kind of meeting some people through here, you get a lot of people who think that they're eating a substantial amount, But like when you actually break it down, they're
You know who you
they're
are.
eating fuck all. We've had 2 people in the group, and then I've just met people like coming into the shop, like, and they're just like, you know, like, oh, like I can't put on size, I got low energy, and I asked them, I was like, well, are you eating enough? They're like, oh yeah, I'm eating enough. And they tell me what they're eating, and we break it down, and like, you know, it could be a guy and he's only eating maybe 1,500 calories, and he's probably burning about like 3,500 calories, and it's just like a lot of time people think that they're really good with their diet, so that's why I'd say just track your diet for 3 days, and I see a lot of people would actually be shocked to see how little, or even sometimes how too much that they're eating, like if it's on the other side.
So this wasn't a topic for today, but we're going to break into it because it's a really good topic to talk about. We might as well just go with the flow here. Like one of the lads here last week, I gave him kind of a to-do list. There's stuff to do and stuff to eat, and on a budget. These are students, and they're kind of done a blog post then based on that. So I pulled him aside last week and I chatted to him, and he's like, since doing training Saturday, I'm just not recovered. I'm really tired. I can't recover. I was like, okay, well, what have you ate today? Right. So I want to know what your diet's like at the moment. What have you ate today? And he goes, I had a bowl of porridge and some protein powder in it for breakfast. I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll take that. And then he's like, and then later on I had a pizza. It was left over from last night. I was like, right. Okay, where is this going? I said, and then and what else? And he goes, and then I had a bowl of porridge again with protein in it. And I was just like, oh man.
My stomach hurts listening to that.
Yeah. I was like, how do you expect to recover? Like, this is again, we're back to our elite versus our aspiring elite athletes versus recreational. Geez, I lost my word there. He wants to be elite. He wants to be the best he can be. But he'll never ever get there. And I'm saying this to him. I'm very blunt. You'll never get there doing what you're doing. I was like, Cilléin does not eat like that. Who was in the gym at the time? Mary was there. I said, don't have to check to see if Mary's at well today. So Mary, come here. Tell us what you had today. So she went through this. And I was like, you hear that, Derek? There's a food protein source in nearly every single meal. There's nothing wrong with porridge and a scoop of protein in it, right? But like, then you have a pizza, and like, if the man had a chicken fillet with it, I'd have said something. And if he had the porridge again with a few eggs in the evening, I'd have said something as well. But he's doing nothing to actually put some quality foods into himself to help him recover. Like, there's a load of carbs there. Should give you some energy, but you're not going to recover from heavy bouts of training.
Even the pizza is shit carbs.
It's shit carbs. I know.
It's not even a decent carb.
But I even said to him, like, if you just ate some protein with that, I'd say something.
You
made some kind of effort here, but you're just
nothing.
Shit.
One thing just
he thought he ate really well. That's what kills me. He was like, I ate really well today. I was like, okay, sure, hit me with it. And I was like, that is shit, man. That is just crap.
I even see like kind of like say like a lot of girls are kind of like almost like they're afraid to eat. And I feel like it kind of is the same thing that they're like some girls be afraid to touch a dumbbell because they feel like they're just all of a sudden going to fucking blow up. Like, I'd always bring it.
This is the problem. Like, what you have to understand is that, and I've seen it. It's happening with younger men as well, but more so for women. We've been cultured for so many years to be said like, don't eat that. Don't eat that. Don't eat much. Eat little portions. Be ladylike. And then you try to explain to someone the same as you are about like the calorie deficit, and they're saying, "Well, I'm eating 1,400 calories a day, and I'm doing all of this, and I'm not losing weight." Well, yeah, because you're not eating enough. And when you try to get women to actually then increase and go, right, if you look at this again, you're actually burning this many calories. This is all you're putting into your body. Like, what do you expect? Your body's not going to work properly. And try to get them. Those who do trust the process and do up their calories will then see the difference. But trying to get, but then you'll also get the ones who they know I'm definitely eating my calories, and then when you look at it, they're not eating the calories, or they're taking them from the most bizarre sources.
So if you look at just from speaking to like Maria and Mary, both of them like the top athletes for under 64 kilos. Like their lifts, they're stronger than most guys that I know, and like they're small.
I always say
but they both of them are eating about 3,000 calories a day.
When Maria was in comp prep, right, 3-4 years ago, and I know this for a fact, she was on 3,300 calories, I think, to maintain her weight. And she wasn't even hitting 62, 63 kilos, I think, at that stage. So to maintain that body weight, she was on 3,300 odd calories, and trying to get people to understand that. And it was even more worse for her because she had such a limited source of food, because she's very particular what she eats, and she doesn't eat meat, and it was very difficult. So you can imagine trying to get 3,300 calories from almost a vegan But don't start, Matt.
No, yeah.
The amount of times you
diet.
tried to get this woman
Pointless.
to eat steak.
Absolutely pointless.
But anyway, it's I think that's a massive understanding. Like, there's so much information out there, but for some reason, it's trying to get it into.
Heads, yeah.
I put a video into the group or WhatsApp the last day. And it was J.M. Blakely on the Lead FTS podcast talking about your program. Your program isn't, and he was such a good point, your program isn't the reps and sets and the weights you lift. Your program, if you're a powerlifter or a strongman, is everything you do. The program doesn't end when you leave the gym.
Yeah.
The program continues on in your diet,
Yeah.
your nutrition, and your sleep. If you want to be the best athlete you can be,
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, yeah. And your program is everything encompassing.
Yeah.
The sets and reps is just, that's one part of it. That's actually the easy part. Everyone does that.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone comes in and does it. It's hard to do at the time, but it's only a few hours.
Yeah.
It's having the discipline
Of what you do outside the gym. Yeah.
Because like we all know what it's like to do a really hard session, squats, deadlifts, and events. You want to sleep for days after that. You know, I personally, after like a hard lower body session, wake up the next day and go, oh, I can't get out of bed. Yeah. And you're probably the same, right? You probably feel like that now actually after Giants Live.
You're still trying to recover 2 days later.
Yeah, but that, you know, and like you have to get enough sleep to be able to recover from that, but you also have the right food in you. So like it's a really good saying is that the program doesn't end when you leave the gym. Yeah, everything you do is your program. Yeah,
because I feel like as well, like some people, like they have like a really hard session or a really hard competition, and then they're just like in that state of mind of like, oh fuck it, I'm just so fucked up, I'll just eat whatever I want.
Yeah,
and then they binge on a load of food that is like not even going to help them to recover, and then they feel even worse, and then their recovery gets pushed out even further. Then
and then like if you're not used to eating that crappy food, your sleep might be put off by it and everything else.
Especially even you see some people who do weight cuts, they cut down, and then like once they weigh in, they just get like fucking a curry cheese, chips, and a burger. And it's just like, what, like you've starved yourself for several days. I know you're going to go for such a very heavy, complicated thing to eat.
And they probably ate super clean for a few weeks as well to drop some more weight off.
You're actually a prime example of this, Matthew.
Yes, and I've made all the mistakes.
Yeah, but generally, like I'll give you an example here. So when Matt eats super clean, and he is like he's trying to get all the calories and everything super clean, and then decides to go for a cheat meal. Now Matt doesn't do things by halves, do we, Matt?
No, I'm an extremist.
Yeah. So it's all or nothing with Matt, and like we'll go out for food, and he'll get a star, he'll get mains, he'll want dessert, and there's been a couple of occasions that you would come back, you're like, I'm so sick, I feel so sick. You've actually
everything come back up.
His body has just gone absolutely not. I don't know, it wouldn't be pure shite. But it wouldn't be like going down to a local chipper and eating pure grease. But it would be burger and it would be fries or whatever.
It might be a Scotties or something like that, or half decent.
And so you know from experience, like if you're eating super clean and you throw that crap into your body, there's going to be a bad reaction. And
I've had it so much. I've learned from it. In fairness, like it's been a long time since that's actually happened to me. But I could eat perfectly clean for a month, not even have a cheat food. Next thing I'd go out and then have fucking starters, main, desserts. Come back home and just fucking hack it all out, like your body's rejecting it.
Food hangover then, whilst we're talking about this, when you do you have that like bit of a cheat and you've been eating so well, do you ever kind of get that food hangover the next day?
I usually kind of like say maybe like 20 minutes after, I just feel regret and shame. To be honest, like that's usually how I feel, like just regret and shame. Like, I'm just like it's never worth it. Like afterwards, I'm just like, I was just like,
what did I do?
Yeah,
aside from the psychological effect it has on you, physically, I know that if I've eaten like crappy, like if I'd had pizza or something and it was like pure shite, the next day I just feel
rough.
And it's not even it was alcohol taken, it was just like eating crap.
I think it's because your body's so used to having nice stuff, like healthy food, but like I feel like it's easier to kind of process bad food when you've got a bad lifestyle because you don't actually know what it feels like to feel good. If you know what I mean. Like it's the same thing that like if you're like living a bad lifestyle and you go drinking, like the hangovers don't feel as bad.
They're not as bad
because your day-to-day standard is so low that like being like you're not crashing as much, whereas like you're healthy when you do that, you crash so fucking hard that it feels way worse.
Even hydration is a big one, and I'm the worst in the world for hydration, as we all know. But I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it in people as well, where they're like, oh, I feel really crap. But I'm like, how much fluid have you had today? And when you actually get to a properly hydrated state after several days of drinking fluid properly, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah,
you're in a whole different focus and perspective, and this brain fog isn't there, and you're actually feeling better. Because your system's now working. It's got enough fluid in it to actually work properly. So again, that lifestyle. If you're constantly walking around dehydrated, eating shite, that's all you know.
You
So
nothing to compare it to.
I don't understand how you do it sometimes, but I can't understand how athletes are walking around, especially say males, over the 100 kilo mark, and not drinking at least 4 liters a day.
Oh no.
Like
It makes me anxious.
If I don't have, you know how much water I drink.
know, yeah.
Like if I'm not drinking 4 liters a day, I'm cracking headaches and everything. And like I do take electrolytes throughout the day as well. So
And like I said, you're not even training hard at the moment. You're not even doing.
Excuse me. I am training isolation. It's very hard.
Okay. And your cardio.
But no, I'm not doing
that,
real training. I'm not doing
even
squats,
before
deadlifts.
like the past few weeks where you've been really like strict with your training.
Yeah.
In between those times, you would still be drinking
loads of water.
4 liters of water or something.
Yeah,
so.
at least I don't understand how people don't do it. Because again, your standard is so low that you don't realize you feel shit like Cilléin just said.
Yeah.
I'd imagine if these people actually worked up to a point of being really well hydrated for a couple of weeks and then started going back to their old habits, surely they'd feel like crap after.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't realize they felt good, before that when they were hydrated.
You notice the difference.
Oh, you have to.
That's why I always start the morning off with the electrolyte tablets.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, especially if you're like, a male who's over like 100 kilos, 120 kilos, you're sweating a lot. You've got so much more body to kind of keep going and stuff like. So I just find the electrolyte tablet in the morning can really just lift you up so much.
Yeah, I've been training, like the little bit of training I'm doing, as Ayshea likes to say.
Oh my god!
But yeah, I'm in the gym every morning. Like I don't see the gym, but I have a electric service into workout.
Yeah.
As soon as I wake up, that's my way of getting hydrated quickly. Because I lose at least 2 kilos overnight. If I step on the scale before bed, drink nothing, wake up in the morning, that's at least 2 kilos every night.
Yeah.
And that's all water. Breathing out, and, So you do have to get that in the morning, especially for the big people out there. Like can't emphasize that one enough, lads, can we? Like,
no, definitely not.
You're getting the food right. Anything to add onto that one?
No,
I think you're really good. I think we went off on a tangent there, but like it's a good tangent in fairness, and like people need to hear it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so many people neglect the whole diet and side of things.
Yeah,
they just focus on just lifting weights and nothing about the recovery outside the gym. Like, so
and people that think people do think they're eating well sometimes and eat like crap.
Yeah,
I think if you don't know anything about nutrition and you just go look at what bodybuilders do. It's meat and carbs and veg all day long, and it's a decent place to start.
It is,
They can be quite boring, but like it's a decent place to start. Eat like a bodybuilder, train like a power lifter, mobilize like a weightlifter. We've all heard that one before. Like it's not a bad place to go. Like
and I feel like if you haven't done any research or spoken to anybody properly about it, just assume that what you're doing is wrong and try and try and figure everything out, because I feel like a lot of people just assume that what they're doing is right, and then they're not willing to be kind of like ignorant and ask these kind of questions, and because they're afraid that it might seem stupid or something like. But just assume that what you're doing is wrong, and then try and figure out if you're actually wrong or right. Like, and then it's the only way you're ever going to really learn.
Yeah, seek help from the people around you that are doing better, and then look online. Like the information's all out there.
We're so lucky nowadays.
You just have to go and look for it.
Yeah. A lot easier than fucking walking into a library and trying to find a book and page.
Absolutely,
There's no search bar there.
No.
Okay. Roll on.
So we have a couple of things here. You want to talk about actually, Ayshea, based on working with someone over the weekend, actually. Supportive equipment. Do you know why you're using it? What are you using? What should you be using?
Yeah, I suppose so. We have a new lady who's working with us, and her squat needed a lot of work. And we've done a lot of tweaking with her over the past couple of weeks. And then on Saturday, I was looking at her and I was like, now she has had mechanical issues with SI problems, and she gets patella knee issues and stuff, whatever. I was just watching her and I was looking at her. She had this lovely pair of Olympic weightlifting shoes on, right? And they're a cracking pair of shoes. And I was watching her at the end of her sets, and I was going, I asked you a question. I says, why are you wearing the lifters or the shoes? And she just looked at me blankly and she was like, I don't know. So as much as I can assume, it came as probably that what we call the powerlifting, or what I call the powerlifting starter kit. So you decide you want to do powerlifting. You haven't come up probably from a very grassroots club like we have, where you're thrown into your socks to start squatting. And she had these Olympic weightlifting shoes. So I said, do me a favor, take them off. I said, I want you to do a set there, 50 kilos. Let's see what happens. So the very first squat, she literally came out of the squat all over the gaff. And she looked at me, she didn't know what was happening. So I said, just go again. Secure the floor, root to the floor, connect with the floor, go again. absolutely brilliant. She had a twist and a shift that was happening when we were trying to work out. That had almost gone. She was hitting depth fine. Heels weren't coming off of the floor, so there's no ankle mobility issues. And I was actually looking to her, I said, right, I need you to, and she's been very good. She's been very trusting of what we've actually asked her to do. I was basically said, look, come in next week, bring a pair of flats in with you. I said, we're going to do a bit of work. I said, I want you out the squats for now. I said, I don't think they're of any use to you right now. So what it brought to mind was, we kind of touched on this before with one of the first podcasts, is if you have just got equipment, supportive equipment, and you're just wearing it for the sake of wearing it, and you don't know what it actually does or why you have it on, you're just wearing it because you're seeing Cilléin wearing it, or me wearing it, or Bobby Thompson, or Tom Stoltman, or whoever, but you don't know why you've actually bought it to put it on, then you shouldn't have it on. Basically. And it's sometimes, we said it before about stripping things back, and like basically with this girl, we're stripping everything back. She's going to just be squatting with the belt until I can get her to connect and understand what's going on with her body movement. And that, I think, goes for all equipment. Like, if you're wearing knee sleeves just because somebody said you should wear knee sleeves, and you actually came up with a good, we were talking about this earlier. So people come in looking for knee wraps.
Knee wraps, yeah.
And what would you say to them?
Yeah, I usually, like, you know, a lot of people ask me for knee wraps, and I ask them, it was like, why do you want knee wraps? Like, I got knee pain. And I'm like, do you foam roll? And they're like, no. And so I'm just like, why, what? Like, what? Like, just like, if you've got pain, and if you think that like wrapping that place up and continue to push your training is a good idea, then like, no, like it's a completely terrible idea, because most of the people that I've spoken to, I told them to go and do some foam rolling, and they've come back and they've told me that their knee pain is completely gone. And like, a lot of time, if you got a lot of tension in your quads, like, that's going to be pulling your knees in a very awkward position, or even could be your hamstring. It could be your quads or something like. So I feel there's a lot of people that just like, they get like a little bit of pain, and it's kind of same even like, let's say with like the squat shoes. It's like some people, like, they may not like have the mobility to actually hit depth, but like, just because you can't do it now, you're just, by using the shoes, you're only kind of like cheating yourself.
You're hiding.
Yeah. So that's why it's just like, those shoes like should be to aid you in what you're doing. They shouldn't be like just a solution to a problem.
They're a masking agent half the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, even around that, what I was explaining to this girl as well, because she was on about doing her next powerlifting meet, wraps, and I said, like, to be honest with you, no. And the reason why is that you need to get stronger first, raw.
Yeah.
Now she's wearing knee sleeves because she has patella tendonitis issues.
She probably will roll her quads.
Probably not on the quads. We'll have that conversation Saturday, so be prepared. But and as I explained to her, I said, it's all very well you throwing knee wraps on, and then what's going to happen is you're going to overload your body, like you said here, without addressing an issue. I said, so the next thing, I said, you are put excessive load on your body. You've hidden it with a pair of knee wraps. You take the knee wraps off. Do you think that problem is gone? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Okay, you might have hit a squat PB. Has your issue been recovered? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I said, instead of addressing an issue, when you start putting supportive equipment on, you're masking it. Or if there's nothing wrong with you, it makes no sense, because you're actually not making yourself any stronger.
No,
you really not.
Especially if you're novice or intermediate, like, there's no need to be wearing knee wraps at all. Like, absolutely not. Like, I was training here for about 5 years before I even used knee wraps. Like,
you only use them getting ready for UKs.
That was it. That just because squat was in there.
So
I think I was 4 years before I put on a set of knee wraps.
Yeah.
Again, and I never wore sleeves.
I was the dumbass that had knee wraps on
From day one.
Before a year had passed. And look at me now, lads.
But at least you were able to give that experience. Okay, this is a detriment of your lifting career.
Detriment to my lifting career, yes.
For now. But it's having that understanding, having that knowledge. Like, just because there's a powerlifting starter kit that you've seen someone wear, or a strongman starter kit, that doesn't mean that you need to be, like we said before, coming out like a mummy with all the stuff on you.
Like, if you look at most of the newbies we have in here, like your Nellas and Orkin and the likes of them, none of them had wore a belt until we decided they were doing a comp, or they picked comp.
It's about 18 months with me now. She's a savage athlete, and managed to drag her into the strong one for a bit. And it's only now, we put a belt on her for the last competition, just for farmers, I think.
And they all borrow a belt off someone for the first. Was Lorcan wearing someone's belt?
He was wearing John's.
Yeah, John.
He done his first two competitions.
Yeah.
Lorcan done his first two competitions. No belts, no wraps.
Yeah.
So like,
you still podiumed as well.
Still podium, yeah. So if you can do something like that, gain all your experience without having to mummify yourself. Next thing you start, I'll throw some straps on.
Yeah.
Next thing he throws on a belt. maybe some knee sleeve squatting a year down the line or whenever. This all adds to already good numbers and good experience.
Yeah.
You don't want to just throw all the shit on
straight away
and train with it the whole way through, because now where'd you go?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where'd you go from there?
Yeah.
Like?
It's
And people don't learn how to use their bodies properly,
No.
and how to brace and how to track their knees and everything else.
And it's like, it's only now that I use elbow sleeves and wrist straps more so than I ever did. But I've got no biceps, so I kind of need to.
You're a little bit back.
Yeah, you're a little bit different. Yeah.
I rarely wear my knee sleeves. I wear my belt for say my squats and deadlifts, but I don't really use it for my overhead. Probably started to add a little bit in now because like that I'm getting a bit more old and battered in my lifting years.
Age, yeah.
But it's only now that I'm kind of starting to take the use from that equipment.
Yeah.
It's like people don't want to learn the fundamentals first. They just want to get all the kit and they want to jump ahead 10 kilos.
Yeah.
Whereas like you gotta really take your time and learn the fundamentals first. You shouldn't be worrying about buying anything.
No.
Supplements, supportive kit, lifting shoes, nothing. Just learn how to lift, learn how to train, learn how to eat well, and have some discipline around that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think some of it ties around with the same thing with, like we said before, like people just want like the heavy smelling salts, they want the really heavy pre-workouts because they think that like they're always looking for like these external ways to improve their lifting without training harder.
Without working.
Yeah, and
And
then
it takes hard
and like
work.
and then like some of those people then like these are the ones that have got like such a grand sense of themselves, a sense of like, oh, I'm going to be like Ireland's strongest whatever, or you know, I'm going to go fucking compete on the world stage and stuff. And we're like that is just such a slap in the face then to the people who are actually like training so hard all these years that you think that you could just throw on a pair of fucking like knee sleeves or deadlift suits.
Takes a free workout.
After like maybe 6-8 months of training and think you're gonna make it to the top. Like it's just like no, you have to be realistic about this kind of stuff. Like
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
A long.
But it's
time.
like we've said this from day one. It's putting in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are not prepared to put in the work when they have to. That's when you start to filter out the people because they start a program and then go, oh my god, this is what you need me to do. You know, and now I need to eat as well, and now I need to do this, and I need to do this.
Make sure I'm getting my sleep and everything else. And
so, like, I think you do get a lot of people who, let's say, they've had no experience in sports whatsoever, and say strong man, strong woman has been the first thing that they've done, and like they've clung to it, like. But then same thing. You've got to be realistic that like most people that are at the top have been doing some form of sport or something for like maybe like 8 or 10 years beforehand.
Yeah, often at a high level too.
At a high level, yeah. Like I started the gym when I was like 14. I played rugby. Like Mary was playing like camogie for about like 10 or 8 years or something. Everyone, we've all had experience in lifting before we even started doing strongman, strong woman. Like, and I think that's what a lot of people just fail to actually see, that they think that you can just start off from scratch and kind of make your way up to the top. And like, fair enough, you may be able to do that, but like that is going to take you a really, really, really long time to do. Like,
and if you can do that, you're probably a freak of that.
Yeah.
If you've done nothing and you get into sport and then make it to the top, you're probably
fair play to you.
Fuck yeah, lucky you.
Yeah.
Outliers,
There are
outliers out there.
Absolutely,
Okay, cool.
Okay, so we've 2 more topics. Will we just cover one of them so we don't go way over time? Pick one of them too.
I think maybe this one, because I've seen a lot of this kind of just like on social media the last while.
Okay.
It's just like people getting it completely fucking wrong.
So Cilléin's choice of the day is peaking and timing your last heavy lifts. So we're looking specifically at like squat, deadlift, press, all that kind of stuff. I suppose being the strongman, so into the strongman area, deadlift's one we probably see being fucked up the most. And then overhead after that.
Yeah.
So like for me, a lot of this is about timing.
Yeah.
But it's also around how strong you are and what else you're doing at the time.
Yeah.
So like a classic example that I like, I'm a bit of a nerd for this stuff, right? And like I would have down through the years, like when Tor be getting ready for a heavy deadlift, so when he's doing the 501, and like before that he done the Arnold Classic prep.
Yeah.
I watched I was timing his lifts, in relation to when the competition was, and I was like keeping an eye on what he was doing with the squats and everything else in between. Like I nerd out in this stuff, like I really do, and I really like look at the details of what they were doing, like. And he was a really good example of 2 different ways to peak really well. So when he was doing the Arnold Classic, this is like his last Arnold Classic, he pulled his last heavy deadlift 3 weeks out from comp. He's going in for the elephant bar deadlift. And I remember correctly, I can't remember exactly what it was. Around 470 he pulled. He took 1 lift, made it really easy, won the event, and that was it. Like you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Crazy, yeah.
So he took that lift 3 weeks out. Now he needed 3 weeks to recover from his last heavy lift in training because he was also training for a load of other things.
Yeah.
He was getting ready for the overhead and probably a heavy yoke and frame, whatever was in the Arnold's that year.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly the 5 events, but he had to train for all that stuff as well. So that eats into your recovery cup essentially, or your recoverability. But when he went and done the 501 deadlift, he trained for nothing but the 501 deadlift.
Yeah.
He actually took his last heavy deadlift 2 weeks out. I think it was 480 or so. I can't remember exactly what the number was. But he took that 2 weeks out. And the reason he could recover after 2 weeks of heavy training, or 2 weeks out from the last heavy deadlift to competition, was because he was doing nothing else.
Yeah.
His squats were in around 180, 200 kilos, like 3 by 3, like really light stuff, just maintain his leg strength, doing no events, just doing a few accessories. So he was able to push it that little bit further. So I think what people need to understand is that, like, you might look at someone do a last, you say you're looking at, you might look at that the Thor time doing that, and they might go, oh, 2 weeks out, so I could do something similar. And maybe I'm not as strong, so it's not going to tax me so I can push you closer. But if you're also getting ready for a load of other events, you can't do that because it eats into your recovery. So as a general rule of thumb for us, and you'll all know this because, like, you could, we started 12-week training cycle, and you know that on week 9 we're probably doing our last 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Everyone in the gym knows at this stage, except for a few might get pushed into week 10 for a certain reason or other. But generally speaking, 3 weeks out from competition, we take our last heavy deadlift, and we might do an overload on top of that. And what I would say our last heavy deadlift is, we're not maxing out our deadlift. We never ever really leave a max in training. Like, you PB'd your deadlift training last year, you pulled 380 in the suit, but that was only because things were moving really well. So we knew 380 wasn't going to be leaving you completely maxed out. One of the best things I heard years ago was Benedict Magnuson that said it was, what was it at all? If you, oh God, I'm losing it here now. But basically, it went along the lines of, if you max out in training and leave a true max in the gym, you now know exactly how weak you are. But if you pull sub-maximal and move it fast, you don't know how strong you are. So it's basically, if you pull your max in the gym and you're completely maxed out, nothing left tank, now you know how weak you are. You've set a limit on what you can do for your competition in a few weeks. But if you leave someone in the tank and move it well, you don't know how strong you are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's a really good mental thing for people to understand. And like, you see this happening people all the time, competitions here. They'll come here competing, and you see, like, they pulled, say, it might be just the intermediates might pull a 250, right? And then they come down here and they don't even pull 250 on the day, or they might just pull 250 because that's what they've capped their limit at. Because that's what they're training and selling them they've done, and that they're capable of doing. Whereas if they had pulled 230, moved it fast 3 weeks out, allow themselves time to recover, they'll probably pull 260, 270 because they're now confident from pulling 230 really fast. You don't need to be pulling maximal weights all the time. You can just move a weight you've done before faster, and now you know you've gotten stronger. But that's a confidence thing that people just don't have. Like,
I feel like, especially as well, like, if you if a person doesn't know what their max is, and like, say, like, if they've just like been working percentages off a random number, then it comes to that kind of heavy single. It's kind of like, sometimes it's like they push it too far because they don't know what it is. And again, like I said, it's better to know, like, how strong you are instead of
exactly
how weak you are as well. Like, like, some people, it's kind of like they think they need to have confidence of, like, feeling a heavy weight before going into training and stuff, like, which
it's senseless.
So
really. There's no need for it at all. Like, you pulled 350 at Ireland's last year, raw, fairly handy. What, like 320 in training? 330 in training was the most you'd ever done, and that was like the 4th event of the day. You were fried going into
but like, even with that 350, like, the fact that I pulled out at 350 was probably the only reason I could go on to do the 410 a few weeks later, because if I had actually maxed out that day, my central nervous system would have went straight down. And it was only 6 weeks until that deadlift competition. So really, what I had, like, three heavy sessions. Like, even though it was 6 weeks away. So if I had actually went for a maximal effort on the day of Ireland's, I wouldn't have been able to go on to do the 410.
No, so we so long to recover.
Because, like, our attitude was, like, we just treat Ireland as like a heavy training day for the actual deadlift.
And it worked out really well. Like,
it did.
So what we do with our deadlift, and most of our online members and all that will be doing the same thing, and they'll all have noticed, is 1 week is very hard and heavy. Not necessarily heavy, but like, it could be voluminous. It's your hard deadlift session. The next week is lower volume or speed work or something like that. And we go up and down every other week. Or you hit your heaviest lift 3 weeks out from the competition. And especially with doing all the other events, like I said about Thor earlier, doing all the other events, that's eating into your recovery, so it takes you longer to recover from that deadlift so you can hit a max in competition. Because of everything else you're doing around it as well. So we take that 3 weeks out generally. Then the week after that is usually like speed work or something like deadlifts. The week after that then is the last week before training. The week out before a competition, we only tend to hit 80% for a single. Like that is it.
Yeah.
So like if your max is 400, what are we doing there? We're doing 320 for a single. Do you know what I mean? And that'd be in a suit. So how easy is that? 240. Oh God, we're only pulling 190 for a single. Raw if you're doing raw deadlift, you know. So that just shows how light we actually are training for competition. I guess something Ayshea said years ago as well, and it really stuck with me, is that you're better off coming into a competition undertrained than overtrained. So like what I like to do is front load all the hard work. If we do a 12-week block, the hardest training is the first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then after that, you want to undertrain yourself a little bit so that you actually come into the competition fully recovered. Yeah. Because if you're not in the competition fully recovered, you're not actually going to hit your best lifts. Hence why we pull our deadlifts so far out and we taper the whole way in. Like it's a long time, 3 weeks out from competition. And I think that's, back to your point, it fucks people's heads. Yeah. Because they want to be feeling weight heavy close to a competition, but then they're not going to be recovered for the competition. So the knock-on effect is you're not ready for the competition. And like we do something kind of similar with our overhead, in fairness, where it's kind of up and down. It doesn't take as much of a down though, as the deadlift does, because the deadlift is so taxing. Yeah. And we kind of push our last heavy overhead to about 10 or 11 days out from competition.
You recover much easier.
Much easier. It's not as taxing. It's just the weight you're moving is so much less. Yeah. You know, like your last heavy deadlift could be, let's say 380 for the deadlift championship that time. Your last overhead could be around 140, 145. So like, what's going to tax you more? Yeah. Obviously the 380. So you need more time for that to be able to recover from it.
Yeah. Do you think it's more of a lack of understanding, or is it ego, or is it because?
I think it's all of the above.
Yeah, because I know that in the beginning that would have been very strange, because we would always, before I started training with you, and again, we weren't coming from anyone who was powerlifting specific at that point. It was from a CrossFit kind of conjugate method kind of thing, right? But we always would pull our opener before, and now that would have been, could most have possibly been up near where our maxes might have been. Now, do you know what I mean?
I've been there.
So, but like it never really failed me on my deadlifts and stuff. Like, but generally you'd see an awful lot of them like probably getting their first deadlift if they were lucky, and then 2 and 3 would go shy. But I'm looking at it now and kind of going, I suppose I've been in this system for such a long time, is that I base how well I'm going to do on how well I'm moving shit. So if my percentages are, like I said, there might be a tough in the beginning because it's volume, but then I know that this is definitely moving better than it was last time at a lower weight. You know, it's I think people have to get into a mindset of that again, and we go down this route all the time, going, it's not just about lifting weights, it's not just about numbers, it's about understanding the psychology of it behind it and where you are at. And understanding if you want to lift heavy to put it up on the gram, so everyone thinks that you're gonna, and then you lift shit at your competition.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't have, exactly.
It doesn't matter.
No, Eddie Hall used to go about how he'd basically call out and say, I'm going to do this. And it was like his way of kind of trying to push himself. But like you said, then when you didn't do it, you had to deal with all the trolling and everything else. Now, on our level, there's very little trolling going on. But if you are wasting your time doing a max lift of overhead just because you think, oh, everyone's on the gram and I'm going to pull all this. Okay, you might think you're confident, but you've actually just screwed yourself over by pulling that.
And like we said, touched on earlier, whatever weight you did in your last training cycle, there's no reason you can't do the exact same weight again this training cycle, but move it faster. And if you've moved it faster and you're more efficient, you're stronger. Yeah, exactly. And now you'll move more weight in the competition. And it's not going to tax you as much. Because it's not heavier and it's moving quicker, so it's more somatic. It's clearly less, more somatic. Less somatic.
I at the moment say that when I come back in, I've been doing 160 for sets of 5, right? I remember when 160. I remember the first time I ever tried to pull 160. Like I remember these.
Was it the first week you were in the gym?
It wasn't too far off.
Annoyingly.
Annoyingly, probably July to September. That's probably what it was when I tried to pull the first 160. But I can still remember I had these milestone lifts, right? And I remember that 130. I remember when 130 felt like this and this felt like 130. I always have these key milestone lifts. And like I look at it now and going, I'm lifting like 2 sets of 5, 160 for 2 sets of 5, and they're like butter through a knife, hot knife through butter, like. And for me, that's where I know I'm so much stronger. And each time I'm able to do that 4 sets of 8 or 5, and they're moving as easy as they were for, if I can do it for 8, and now it's moving as easy as for 5. That's how I know that I'm stronger.
It's PB there.
But I think it's always about having that in your head. And I don't know if that's just how I think, but I think it's a good thing for people to look at. Is go, okay, remember when that? Remember, Barry? remember when your 120, your 150 felt like your 120 felt like your 150.
Yeah.
Because you've progressed. You've come that much further.
Yeah. I think we fairly bet that horse there. I can get a bit caught up on that subject and go a bit deep on it.
But it's interesting because, like I said, if people want to actually increase their knowledge, whether they're a lifter or a coach, they now can look at where you come from. It's not just about pulling a chart off of the internet and giving you these sets, and because anyone can do that if they really set their mind to it. Anyone can write a 6-week program for a peak by going on the internet. But it's understanding like the actual, like you've looked at the best lifters and you've gone, okay, this is what Thor did.
And in fairness,
how can we tweak it to
if you go back to some of the best lifters in time as well, the Lillibridges would have done the same thing. They would alternate heavy squats 1 week, heavy deadlifts the next. So again, I would have tracked back, got the dates of their deadlifts, matched up with competitions and when they would have done well. And I really I do nerd out on this stuff a little bit, and it's worked out for me.
Obviously, if you want to be coach,
because you get the benefits of it too, obviously. But like if you just go back and look at what some of the best were doing, very similar. Andy Bolton had a similar style to that as well, where it would be up and down, but he'd never pull maximally in the gym. He'd always move his last lift. It'd be heavy, but he'd move it fast. And he'd probably pull like another 40, 50 kilos in competition every single time. That was his method. It was always focusing on speed and how fast he moved the weight, rather than having to move a new weight in the gym. And that's what people are missing out on, I think, an awful lot. And then even down to your events, people pushing events too hard just before competition. It just makes no sense. Like if you are the Saturday before competition doing your hardest training session, you have fucked up. You have really fucked up, because you're now not going to be recovered for the competition, or you're probably panicking because you haven't done enough work before that. Like we normally do, again, our 80% deadlift, we'll probably drop the squats in that session. And we will most likely just have a run through of some really light events. If any. Sometimes we won't do any events, depending on how battered or tired the person is at that stage or coming into that week. I might say, right, we do no events this weekend. We might touch them Tuesday. Just get a light run through Tuesday. Might do nothing that Saturday. And just let the person recover so they can actually be at their best for the day. And that's people just keep missing out on that.
I feel like they underestimate how long it actually takes to recover. I feel like some people think that
point,
I feel like they think they can just have a protein shake, go to sleep, maybe do a bit of hot and cold, and their body's fucking recovering. And it's just no, it takes like at least 2 weeks sometimes. If you put in a maximum fucking effort, it could be 2 weeks so your body recovers from that.
And I think that's a nice place to go into how you are feeling after Giants. Because we just get a quick update we've got a few minutes left before this ends. And you are feeling absolutely battered after the yoke in particular. I think it's really got you, hasn't it?
Really fucked me up.
That was Saturday night. It's Tuesday now, and you walked into this gym this morning looking like death. I looked at you and said, "You look like shit." And it is. It's really true maximal effort.
True. I think it just because I was week 5 of my current training cycle, training for the GSP Cup, and then then found out that I was supposed to fucking compete or Giants Live 10 days later. So we only had 2 heavy training sessions, and I think on the Saturday I went for I done 350 on the yoke, and doing 350 relatively comfortable on a regular yoke, but the Giants Live fucking card that they have, I've heard from the OSG one sounds much easier to deal with, but this bloody thing, you pick it up, the front of it just falls straight away. And I knew people told me it was going to fall, but I didn't expect it to fall as much as it actually did. It was I had they had a safety bar thing that you can hold on to, but I was trying to push my hands to kind of do it. And then not only that, the whole thing, it wobbles, it's not even actually attached to the frame. So the whole thing is just kind of moving by itself, so it absolutely just sucks the soul out of me. I was really fucking destroyed after that. Mentally and physically, I was just I finished it but I remember my plan was to leave my pre-workout until say after the next event. Well, I was just kind of sitting out the back and I was just I am fucked. I've got 3 more events to do. So I took kind of my pre-workout then just to try and bring me kind of back up. But I kind of even knew like going into the like as soon as I kind of picked up the Viking press, I was just like, I'm fucked. Like I am really fucked right now.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
and I think that it just kind of from what we're going on saying, like this is like the importance of having like effective peaking, like what it actually means, like because like going into that, like I mean, I had not much of a fucking building phase. I was only kind of like
you're getting going.
yeah, I was literally I say maybe like 65, maybe 70% primed at that point. And like, you know, we talk about this before, like it's not just your muscles, your training, it's your central nervous system to actually withstand that weight. So by the time I had actually, because I went from a 350 open training to a 450 kilo car walk, and like that just sent my central nervous system straight through the fucking floor.
Yeah.
And like once that happens, like I don't care how fucking strong you are, if your CNS is flattened, you're not going to be able to fucking lift anything. Like
It was just complete overload, like
complete fucking like
and like there's nothing with the timeline we had that we could do to train that.
No.
Because if we put a 450 open your back here the Saturday beforehand,
oh,
you'd be fucked anyway.
Yeah, it would have done even worse. Like,
Yeah, it was better to do that kind of lighter one.
Lighter,
Make sure you're recovered at least
yeah,
for the day.
like to get some bit of a feel of it. Like,
Oh God,
yeah,
it didn't go there.
oh, right, yeah.
and it did, man.
Yeah.
Like you done your best in all the events.
Yeah.
You definitely. Like, I mean, you didn't zero nothing. You were able to compete and everything.
You finished. You know what I mean? Like
you walked away injury free.
Yeah, like it's massive.
From events that you weren't training for that were fucking heavy, man.
Yeah, it was like I think again, it was just like I saw it was frustrating at the time because you know, being a competitive athlete, you always want to be like winning or coming at least top 5 in these kind of shows. And I think at the time it was just kind of I was kind of like worried that I would be seen as like a disappointment by the promoters as well as the fans. But even kind of I talked to promoters afterwards, like, you know, they were very understanding of the fact that like I had very little time, and even like talking to fans at the meet and greet, like everyone was coming up saying like, like well done, like you came in such short notice and you've still done so well, like so it was, you know, the people were a lot more kind of understanding about it than it was like.
And I think people do as well, like they understand the ridiculous weights that you're asking.
Yeah.
And people understand, like even the people that don't train. There's a lot of fans there that don't train, like they look in the crowd and they just love strongman watching and stuff. They understand that you can't just get off the couch and do this. You have to be really ready for it. Like. And again, the guys that you were against were all training for months for this. They knew the events, training for months. And even the guys there that jumped in last second, like, and there's nothing against them, they're lucky enough to have trained on that kit. Like Kane Francis was trained, was it Fish or Flowers? He used to go for it. He was friends with the boys. So they're going up training on the kit. He go, fuck it, I'll come up with you and train some events. Lucky him.
Lucky him,
not like he's a fantastic athlete.
Oh, yeah,
he's
great.
Unbelievable.
Like,
my God.
Very good. Like,
That's not, I'm not discrediting him, but
no.
he was just lucky that he was in that situation. It's like when you were talking about Cup here and training on the Shield. It's like, we just happen to have the kit for it. It's not your fault that we have it, like, you know? And that's now.
And like that as well. Here, anyone can come down and do the kit. If you'd been in the UK, you could have gone up.
Yeah, or even if I had a bit more notice, I would have gone over to actually like.
But sure, like those are all, we know that in strongman, you don't know what you're gonna get on the day anyway.
So and the fact that like no two pieces of equipment are the same, like so. That's why it's good to kind of get as much experience as you can. And it's like, you know, again, like, you know, it's, you know, most people would have said like would have been, you know, standoffish to take a last minute invite to a competition because they'd be afraid of their egos, they'd be afraid of failing and stuff like. But it's a massive learning curve for me because I know when I go next time, I know exactly what to expect.
So what this reminds me of, I was thinking about, like I've been doing a lot of thinking the last few days about this, as I do. It's like your first Ireland Strongest Man, Cilléin. You took it on 3 weeks' notice. You didn't go great. You probably did better chance live, I think, than you did your first Ireland.
She didn't get through today.
You didn't get through today.
I remember that video clip I have of you.
So, like, you've done better actually your first chance live than your first Ireland. But the next year you come back and you come 5th at Ireland. Following year you come 2nd and 2nd again. So there's no reason you can't do the same thing with chance live.
100%.
Like, that's what I keep thinking over the last few days. Like, he did that with Ireland, basically what he's just done, but didn't do as well as he did over here, and he had shorter notice for this actually for Giants Live. So I think there's no reason you can't come back next year and be fighting for a podium.
100%.
And there's no reason the year after you can be on top of the podium. There's no reason whatsoever. Like, I mean, you look at some of your lifts in comparison to a lot of these guys, and you're up there with them in fairness. And you'll recognize yourself that your overhead is probably where you're lagging behind a few of them. But your deadlift is up there at your best, and your movement is definitely up there at your best, and you're very well rounded. So I don't see any reason. I'm sure you don't either. I hope you don't.
No. I definitely know. It's definitely given me a lot more kind of confidence. And even though I'm absolutely fucking destroyed right now, like I just want to get back training, like just
Not
like,
loud though.
yeah, I know.
Thursday.
I know,
I
really,
think as
really,
well, just
yeah.
like we just want to pick up something you said there. Like you were worried that the promoters and the fans were disappointed, and that we would be disappointed. I hope you mean always strongman and powerlifting as well, there, fucker. But I think that when you're at that level, I know from my own personal experience, it's what everyone else may think of what you've done, that you've let them down, and you genuinely haven't, because you're like Matt was saying, you're going out there and doing something that majority of those people know themselves would not go out and do. Not that they couldn't, some of them couldn't, but a lot of them would be like, there's not a hope that I'd go out and do what that lad does on a day-to-day basis, let alone come over here in 10 days notice. So it's only the dickheads that are out there, and there's a few of them, but that would kind of troll that situation. But you know, you have to kind of flip that and go, no, next time will be that better. Next time will be that bit better.
Yeah, and I think for me, looking in like I mean, say like to all our members that are active lifters, like if you go out in any competition and you give your actual best, you try all the way through, that's all that can be asked of you, and it's all you can ask of yourself on a certain day. Like, you know, that's, I mean, what else can you do?
It's all a learning curve.
It's all a learning curve.
You're not going to jump to the top straight away. Like you got to be realistic and be humble, and you know, put yourself in situations where you know you're not going to come out on top. But you know, like it's usually those kind of moments that you learn the most. Like,
and sometimes there's no harm to get a bit disappointed by your result, because it makes you work harder.
It makes you work harder. Yeah, it was easy.
Gives you a motivation.
If you're just gliding through each competition effortlessly, you just become meaningless and you stop training tired, and then like something big would happen, and then like you know you wouldn't actually fucking want to train anymore. Then
That's exactly what happens to people. Like,
okay.
You know? So yeah, I think that is us, lads.
Cool.
Well done.
No one, anyone else want to add anything else?
No, I don't think so.
No. Usual carry on, lads. If you like the podcast, share it,
Ding, ding, ding,
subscribe.
ding,
Yeah,
ding,
ding, ding, ding, ding.
If you have any suggestions, let us know of things you want us to talk about.
Please, we want the feedback. So drop us a message, drop us a whatever, and just
There's no dumb questions either.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
We've done all the dumb things anyway.
So we can give you the answers.
You learn from us, exactly. Right, thanks, folks. See you later.
Later.
Bye-bye.